A fire on the 43rd floor of a residential tower in Dubai Marina. The building was completed in 2012, fully occupied, fully certified. Within minutes, flames spread to floors 44, 45, and 46 before firefighters arrive. Nobody dies this time. But this is not an isolated event. It is the 9th major high-rise fire in Dubai in just over a decade. And every time, the official explanation is the same word, cladding. But that word hides a much larger story. Dubai has more skyscrapers per square mile than almost any city on Earth. Most were built between 2000 and 2015 during a construction boom that moved faster than safety systems could fully adapt. Towers rose at record speed. Regulations struggled to keep up. And somewhere in that rush, decisions were made that would later become visible only when buildings started burning. Cladding is the outer skin of a building. It does not hold the structure up, it wraps it. In a city like Dubai, where heat is extreme and air conditioning costs are massive, cladding is both functional and cost-sensitive. The problem lies in a widely used material, aluminum composite panels, or ACP. These panels often contain a polyethylene core, a plastic that is highly flammable. When it ignites, it does not just burn, it spreads fire rapidly across the surface of a building like a vertical fuse. This same material played a major role in the Grenfell Tower fire in London in 2017, where 72 people died. After that tragedy, many countries banned or heavily restricted it in high-rise residential buildings. Dubai did not ban it. Instead, it issued recommendations. And that difference, between recommendation and enforcement, became critical. Investigations and safety assessments later suggested that a significant percentage of Dubai's high-rise buildings use some form of flammable ACP cladding. In a city of hundreds of towers, that becomes a systemic issue, not an isolated defect. So why did it happen? The answer lies in how Dubai was built. Developers sold apartments before construction was finished. Buyers paid in installments. The entire system rewarded one thing above all: reducing cost without changing the selling price. Cladding became one of the easiest places to cut costs. It is invisible to buyers. It is installed late in construction. And once the building is complete, it is rarely questioned. The approval system was meant to ensure safety. But in practice, it often functioned as paperwork rather than enforcement. Engineers and contractors have described situations where materials were substituted during construction to cheaper alternatives, sometimes without strong resistance from oversight bodies. By the time inspections happened, much of the work was already completed. And once certificates were issued, responsibility became fragmented, developers moved on, companies restructured, liabilities diluted. Then came the residents. Retrofitting a building with fire-safe cladding is extremely expensive, often running into millions per tower. In many cases, the cost falls on owners' associations, meaning individual apartment owners. For many residents, this created a trap. They own property they cannot easily sell, because buyers increasingly demand fire safety verification before purchase. If a building is flagged, transactions collapse or stall. So you end up with a paradox. People are paying mortgages and living in homes that are functionally illiquid assets. Some owners only discover the issue years after purchase. Others remain unaware entirely. Meanwhile, the scale is enormous. Estimates suggest hundreds of thousands of units may be affected across the city. This is not just a construction issue. It is a financial structure problem. Because Dubai's real estate system is built on confidence in speed, growth, safety, and regulation. That confidence is part of what attracts global capital, workers, and investors. But repeated fires challenge that perception. Buildings like Torch Tower in Dubai Marina have burned more than once. Other high-profile towers have suffered major fire incidents over the years. Each time, investigations are launched. Recommendations are issued. But large-scale mandatory retrofitting has not followed in the same way it has in other countries. The reason is complex. A full acknowledgement of the problem would carry enormous financial consequences: retrofitting costs, insurance reevaluations, market confidence shifts, and legal disputes across thousands of properties. So instead, the response has often been incremental rather than structural. But markets eventually adjust anyway. Insurance companies have started reassessing risk in certain building types. Some policies have become more expensive or restrictive. That cost flows downward to building management, then to tenants, and ultimately into rent. At the same time, international buyers have become more cautious. Legal due diligence now often includes fire safety checks that can delay or kill transactions. This creates a slow but steady shift, a segment of the property market that exists physically, but is increasingly difficult to trade freely. And that is where the deeper issue lies. Because what looks like isolated fire incidents is actually part of a larger structural tension between speed-driven development and long-term safety accountability. Dubai's skyline is one of the most impressive in the world. It represents ambition, engineering, and rapid transformation on a historic scale. But inside that skyline are thousands of buildings that depend on decisions made during a very specific era, when speed mattered more than long-term risk visibility. And those decisions are still active today. Not as headlines, but as material in the walls. As cost structures in ownership associations. As insurance models quietly recalculating exposure. As residents living in buildings they assume are fully safe because they were officially approved. The most important question is not why fires happen. It is why the same conditions keep producing them. And what it means for a city built on the promise that everything was carefully controlled. Because when a skyline becomes the marketing of a city, any structural flaw inside it becomes more than an engineering issue. It becomes a question of trust. And trust, once questioned at scale, is much harder to rebuild than any tower ever constructed.